Okay, I decided to make a 911 video, which means that we have a problem, big problem, which means too many of you are suffering unnecessarily. So this is a 911 wake-up call. We will cover quickly the matrix. We will cover some basics in health and healing. You will cover the conceptual framework on how we would approach a diseased state such as cancer. But make no doubt about it, I'm in the hospitals, I'm even in the workout clubs, I'm in the restaurants. Wherever I go, people are now coming up to me begging for help because they are suffering. The system has them traumatized. You are dealing with their own unrecognized trauma, and therefore, they are also connected to the matrix. As a matter of fact, some of them, if I would try to disconnect them from the matrix, one plug at a time, go watch the movie The Matrix, you'll know what I'm talking about, they may try to kill me. Why would they try and kill me if I'm doing something good for them? It's because they are not ready. So, first concept. Remember, we are the students of the Christ light. We are Christologists. We follow the spiritual light that comes from prime source creator love, aka God with a capital G. Make no mistake about it, this is not a game, but it is a game at the same time. After this video, I will try to include more humor and more lightheartedness, because those of you that have watched me in action know that I love to laugh, and laughter in and of itself is one of the 12 elements of health and healing. I'll get into that in another video at another time. Maybe I'll do that next, because I want to probably continue this series because way too many of you are suffering right now. It is amazing that the amount of suffering that's now just coming out of the closets and presenting itself to me. And so I had to make this video because it's a 911. So this, the first concept that I want to talk about is timing, or the cyclical nature of the universe, or the seasonality of you and me being ready for the next level. See, some of you are not ready for the next level. Why? Because it is not your time. Why? Because it is not your cycle. Why? Because you are not in season. So, in order to be in time with this information, in order to be in time with this particular coding, light coding, students of the light, it has to be your time. So some of you, this will be your time, but for a lot of you, it will not. For a lot of you, it will just go whoop right through you like, what is he talking about? Has he lost his mind? The answer is yes, I've lost my mind. I'm crazier than you. I'm crazier than that one, that one, that one, and that one. And it's a good thing to be crazy in a world that has already gone insane. So the ones that are crazy are actually the ones that are not so far off. Anyway, let's get back on subject. The cyclical nature, everything in nature, everything in the universe, everything in time has its season or its time for something to bear fruit or to come into fruition, which simply means that we must begin to observe the cyclical nature of things. One of the things I teach is grounding. Again, now I've given you 2 of the 12 elements of health. And I'll throw a third one in there, hydration. And I'll throw a fourth one in there, light, in this case, sunlight. You already got 4 of the 12. There's a 13th, but the 13th, I'm going to leave up to you to add the 13th element of the equation of 12, because it's always 12 plus 1. 12 plus 1. So let's continue. What does grounding have to do with it? Well, I have made a post. Please go see it. Skip Mahoney 22 on Instagram, where I show the calcification and the fluoridation of the pineal gland, which is the backbone of the third eye, which is actually the first eye. In order for that to activate appropriately and energetically through the appropriate light codes, which are now purposely being interfered with through what? The matrix or the world. Remember, I distinctly told you there are 2 matrices. By the way, this is not being taught by anyone else or anywhere. No one teaches about the 2 matrices. They teach about 1 matrix, but they forget there isn't yet an organic, a natural matrix that was conceived in the mind of Prime Source. And yet we are living on one hand, the earth, and on the other hand, the world. Earth being the natural intention of things, the natural flow of things, and the world being the secondary matrix, with the wool being pulled over our eyes. Thus we have Dorothy on the road, the yellow brick road, going to Oz looking for a savior that doesn't exist, because she discovers that the power was always within her. The entire dream state was created by her. We will decipher that at another time, just like we will decipher and decode the matrix in depth at another time. Right now, I want to talk about approaches to healing, but I want you to understand the cyclical nature of the universe, the cyclical nature of life itself, the cyclical nature of seasons, the cyclical nature of life, and the cyclical nature of attachments. For in any attachment, and I am not passing judgment on what you choose to attach to, but just realize that with every attachment, as taught by the great sages throughout the ages, every attachment brings with it a beginning, a middle, and an end. In this world, nothing lasts forever. But we know from the point of light, as lightologists, Christologists, that time in reality is an illusion. But in reality, which is a concoction of the matrix, the secondary matrix, time is real, or reality. So if we talk about grounding, it is because of the cyclical nature of your body and energetic body. So physical and energetic, or metaphysical, or astral, or etheric. It is your bodies looking to go back into tune. Just like a musical instrument can come out of tune, and to stay out of tune for too long creates a state that we refer to as dis-ease. And so how do we retune? The quickest and easiest way is to go outside in the sun. Thank God for the last 3 days we've had sun, after we've had torrential rains for almost 3 weeks. And so I'm happy when I can at least sit out in the mornings and get that sun, because my body, my skin, my entire energetic complex is based on eating the sun energy. Again, we'll talk about that at another time. So grounding means you put your bare feet on grass, on sand, in the seas, not the ocean, we must call it the seas. Hands preferably touching a tree, because that tree has roots going deep down into the ground, so it will accelerate your grounding. And what are we talking about grounding? Well, we know that the pineal gland complex, known as the third eye, the optic chiasm, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, the thalamus and the hypothalamus, making up that complex, right? So it is the first interface for the light being or the soul to come in to begin to take over the avatar of the physical body. But I told you that we needed baptism, which is really a fake word that was Vaticanized. The original meaning of the word was immersion back into the light, to be reborn. What? Back to you, from you, finding you, the little you finding the big you. Again, that is a path that we will have to discuss. So when you are grounding, your third eye area is sending an impulse every 90 seconds, this cyclical nature. And it is sending it down through your brain stem, through your spinal cord, down through the trunks of the spinal cord, where it breaks into the two major trunks that then innervate your legs and into the bottom of the soles of your feet. And it is through the soles of the feet connecting to nature that completes the cycle. So a few cycles of your of the glandular system receiving its feedback frequency from the earth itself. It is called the Schumann resonance. Please go look at it. It's between 7 and 12 megahertz or gigahertz. I can't remember which one right now. It's not important. It's just that there is a frequency that because we come from the dust of the earth, we are looking to retune first to the earth frequency and then to light frequency codes. Again, another discussion for another time. I did give you a little tidbit before. So grounding, but in order to understand what we must do to heal a disease, we must understand that the light has not appeared to cure you of a disease. It has not come to rescue you from your pain. It has not come to rescue you from the codec of the world's historical data of diseases. It has come to search out its creations, which you and I are part of that. Matter of fact, we are a big part of that. So when it seeks out its creations, by how? By us first understanding the nature of ality, and then the nature of reality, the secondary matrix. We can then reach out to that light, which is already within us. It is a symbolic reaching out. The light then comes because you have now invited it in to resurrect, to redeem, to create a generative seed that will lead to your rebirth and health. And so let's talk about dis-ease for a second. Now, we just got through grounding. We just got through hydration. I'll give you another one now, the fifth element. And I'm going to leave it at that. Detoxification. Should I say it again? Let the good doctor teach. Can I teach? Can the good doctor be allowed to teach? I love this. So, the regenerative force of the light entering into you, because you've invited it to enter into you. Why? Through the renewing of your mind, through the process of immersion, not baptism. But I had to use the word baptism because it is a word that you are familiar with. You are not familiar with spiritual immersion into the light, which is our natural state, by the way. So all the light is doing, or light codes, beginning with the sun, is bringing you back to you so that you can find you, disconnect from the simulation, and begin to exercise your power over the game. So let's talk about healing. We talked about grounding. We talked about hydration. We talked about sunlight. We talked about detoxification. So let's say someone presents with a case of cancer. We are now dealing with an epidemic, especially amongst the females of our species, of sexual, uterine, ovarian, and breast cancers. Why is that? Can the good doctor be allowed to teach? Clearing the energy, because we're about to turn up the energy. Why is this? It goes back to another concept that I have talked about, but you have not gotten yet. Why? Because to get it means you must do something about it. And most of you are stuck in the worst place possible. The most destructive defense mechanism ever created. It is called procrastination, which means no matter what you have come to understand, no matter what facts you are aware of, no matter what you believe and ultimately what you know, there must be a bridge over troubled waters to get you from what you know to take the appropriate action. Thus, my post on the Instagram, A Bridge Over Troubled Waters. Go look at it. It's very interesting, if I do say so myself. So, what happens with what I would call the emotional blockages in its relationship to cancer? It has been revealed to me, which is likely why I went into the fields that I chose to go into. Zoology, biochemistry, organic chemistry, medicine, and ultimately neuropsychiatry. I'm not coming to you as a physician, so please do not even, when I say the good doctor, I am talking about a spiritual doctor. I am not talking about a medical doctor. That's not why I'm here. But it doesn't hurt that I have that knowledge to pull from. So, I want to refer you to an interesting gentleman that I had the chance to connect with and study in depth his teachings. His name is Bradshaw. Go look up Bradshaw in Family Dynamics. Why do I bring up Bradshaw? Because Bradshaw is excellent at bringing up the different forms of abuse. Bradshaw was good at identifying dysfunction in the family. if you master Bradshaw's work, you will then know what to do within yourself, because we are dealing with gestational abuse. We are dealing with proximal abandonment. We're dealing with abandonment, rejection, a lack of self-esteem building, trauma, molestation, physical abuse, sexual abuse, psychological abuse, outright rejection and abandonment. I say that a lot because this creates a childhood wound. And if not allowed to heal, it begins to become infected, infested, and it begins to affect you year after year after year. Even today, I dealt with a lady 40 years into a marriage that has been a nightmare, at least for the last 20, but probably before then. She is in denial, so for her to admit the last 20 years have been a nightmare means it's probably worse. But it's to say, how far will you take your insanity? How much pain will you endure when there is suffering? And I wear only one ring, the suffering, but there is necessary suffering and there is unnecessary suffering. And most of us now in a disease state, excuse me for kicking that, or dealing with unnecessary suffering. So, how does this relate to cancer, ovarian disease, endometrial disease, uterine disease? In a woman, especially breast cancers, which are on the rise, but they want to come up with little pink bow ties and pink colored shoes and pink clothing, and you donate to the American Cancer Association, whatever other beggars are out there, and the money is not going to cure cancer. It is going to manage cancer, and we can't afford to manage disease. We must pull ourselves out of disease. So the light seeks not to cure you of cancer, but literally to separate you from the disease of cancer, to lift you out of the cancer by increasing your intelligence, your spiritual intelligence, your energy, your core vibrational state going up. Why? How is it able to do that? Because you have dealt with your core emotional blockages, which is trauma from the past, trauma from childhood, your reaction to what has happened to you, and it is covered over with anger. Wherever I see a lot of anger, I know that there has been trauma as a child, because that anger covers up all the hurt and pain. If you can get through the anger and you can get through the hurt and pain, then we can do work. Open up the energy channels, clear the blocks, and clear the energy flow. Now, how do we know the energy flow is clear? I see it in your eyes, I feel it in your energy, but I also love it in your laughter. And I am talking about real laughter. Some of you laugh, but the laugh is complete BS. I am talking about real laughter. We'll talk about the energy of laughter, the sixth element of healing now. We're rolling. We already got half in just this video alone, and it's getting long, so I'm gonna be ending it soon. We must understand that what the system has taught us is a lie. What the world has taught us is a lie, but it is mixed with subtle truths at the same time, which makes the lie all the more palatable, which then puts another plug of the matrix into your nervous system. Click, 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 and we must unclick, click, click. And a lot of you do not want to unclick click, click. Why? Because it is painful, but that is necessary suffering. Just like going to the dentist to remove a bad tooth. It's something you don't want to do. You will procrastinate until the pain gets to the point where you cannot sleep, you cannot eat, and the pain becomes all consuming to the point where you take your butt to the dentist, and even taking your butt to the dentist's office, you don't want to do it. You don't want to sign the paperwork to sign yourself in. Just the smell of that dentist's office tells you trouble is on the way. But the trouble is actually what you need. Because yes, there is suffering on the way. However, that is necessary suffering. You sign yourself in, you sit in the waiting room, you wait for your name to be called. You then go sit into the seat, the dental chair. The dentist chair. Then they come and take a x-ray. And then the dentist shows up and tells you what is wrong. And almost invariably, here comes the needle. More trauma, more fear, more suffering. He injects you with the Novocaine or whatever anesthetic that they use. And he begins to do his work. And while he's doing his work, you're in trauma and fear. You're suffering. Because all at once, your pain, your fear, your anxiety, your worry, you must turn it all over to that dentist, who at that time becomes your saving grace. After you leave the dentist, after it's all over, a day later, 2 days later, 3 days later, after you're now back into your home, back into familiar surroundings, and you're now sleeping and the pain is gone, you realize that going to the dentist was the best thing you could have done. Going into those dark waters of your blocked and traumatic and traumatized emotional states that have their roots in childhood. So if we're going to deal with cancer, we must deal with the cause of cancer. For cancer is an effect. And the system or the world in modern medicine has us chasing our tails, treating and managing effects. But we know and we understand as Christologists and students of the light that we must get to the cause or the root of the matter in order to cure anything. So we're now looking for the cause. Dehydration, lack of sunlight, stress, unable to manage stress, because the stress continues to trigger those emotional buttons that have roots in past emotional traumas, which are still alive today. And I say to you that the light, once you're able to go work through those traumas, some of you may need a spiritual-based therapist, a lightologist, a Christologist-based therapist who's been thoroughly trained in metaphysics and thoroughly trained in the basics of psychology. So I am gathering a group together. I have a group of MD healers, and we were talking about that powerful group that I have accumulated, and I will share that group with you. But we must understand that cancer and most diseases are effects. And the one law that keeps cancer alive is the law of unforgiveness. I said it, the law of unforgiveness. When you are able to break that cycle of unforgiveness, when you are able to heal those wounds, and those wounds, those emotional wounds, continue to drain your energy cell, it is a slow bleed. It is a slow emotional drain, which is a drain of your life vitality energy, which is a slow drain on your synergy cell or your energy meter in this holographic video game that we call life in the Matrix. So I just wanted to put this out to begin to get you to think. We must get to the root cause. As lightologists, we cannot accept the world of effects and the treatment of effects. We need to get to the cause of the problem. So even that person who has gone to the dentist and has the appearance that all is well, all is not well, because that person must still deal with the cause of why that tooth went bad in the first place. Am I clear? 2 more videos coming on healing disease. But we now know that it is not the world of effects that we need to deal with. Also, go look at my Instagram post of the person meditating on top of what looks like a rock or a iceberg, but it is a rock. But there's water surrounding the rock. The tip of the rock sticks out, but the base and root of the rock is underneath the waters. And the root of most of your problems lie in those dark, murky, emotional waters. And I say to you, who of you is willing to go into those dark waters, to take a deep dive into those dark waters, to deal with your own emotional trauma? Not many of you. Why? Because right now, most of you are in a state of denial. And I am not talking about a river in Africa. So on that note, I am going to give the salutatory goodbye. And until next time, may the light be with you.